This is the Last Minute Blues Podcast with Alex Ferrario, Donnie Fandango, Jeremy Rutherford, and Jeff Burton on 101 ESPN.
The Last Minute Blues Podcast is presented by Blue Note Roofing. Roofing, siding, and gutters. Your St. Louis roofing experts. Visit BlueNoteRoofing.com for a free inspection.
It is the Last Minute Blues Podcast. Donnie Fandango joined in the Jeff Burton studios by the one and only Alex Ferrario from 101 ESPN, handling your pre- and post-game. Also, and I never mention this, and it's really short-sighted of me, also one half or one third, I don't know if we want to leave Tanner out, of BK and Ferrario, the midday program on 101 ESPN. Alex?
Thank you very much
What
for
up,
that.
dude?
Everybody just assumes BK does the show, but I'm the second half. I'm the better half.
Somebody has to be in that studio to keep that man's Chiefs ego in check.
Chiefs ego, tone in check. You got to keep it all under wraps a little bit.
Absolutely so. And then that brings us to another member of our podcast team. It's Mr. Jeremy Rutherford, writer for The Athletic for your St. Louis Blues. JR, what's cooking, dude?
Not too much. Just glad to be back with you guys, and we'll talk about this Blues team. And then also, guys, I'm really looking forward to next week.
Because it's Christmas?
Yeah. Oh, what would you think? That podcast?
Come on, man.
Oh, wait,
We're trying to build up excitement. 12 people could show up to this thing next week, and we've got you going, what, where? Trying to make a funny joke.
My parents and my 1-year-old daughter are going to be there. That's 3 guaranteed. I went to Aldi's and I picked up some extra canned goods, so I've already got that. So we know for at least we're going to have 3 people and 6 cans.
Yeah, and I know one other person that's coming. Talked to him a couple days ago, Tony Twist. Guys, Tony Twist.
God, that's awesome.
This is going to be a ton of fun. So we got Twister. We've got our, general foolishness. We're doing this for Operation Food Search. So we're looking for canned goods, non-perishable food items. I don't know this for sure, and I should have probably asked before I open up my mouth, but I would assume that there is going to be some way that if you would like to donate cash, that we would also be able to take that sort of thing.
I'm pretty sure we'll have a website to where you can donate to it as well.
Absolutely so. Or maybe somebody there from Operation Food Search that might just directly be able to take the money from you.
Absolutely.
But we would just love you to help us out. You've seen numerous news stories over the course of the last month and a half about how food pantries in our area are in a really, really, really bad spot. And so this is just a way for you to come out, have a really great time with us, and help a really great charity. There's going to be the food at Hot Shots is off the charts, drink specials, Twister, us. We're going to play good puck, bad puck. We got an autographed Binner jersey to give away as well.
Blues tickets for home games.
Tickets to give away. God dang, man.
You can put a name with a face, like if we get emails in the future, hey, that's the guy that bought Donnie 3 beers.
And you know what I didn't even think about? It will also be the outside of this building debut of the Last Minute Blues Podcast sticker.
All right.
Oh, that's right. Mine's already on the car. Mine's already on the car. I posted it on my wife's right away.
Put it on your wife's car, but didn't put it on yours. I like that.
Mostly because I want to see if people honk at her when they're driving behind her. She'd be like, what is going on?
Honey, I got flipped off twice today, and I have no idea why.
Somebody rolled up the window and said, your Blues takes suck.
I already got one sticker, BK and Tanner.
Whoa. Yeah. That checks out.
That was pretty good.
Hey, if there's one thing, I dig at JR all the time. If he's not going to dig at me, then are we even friends on a podcast?
So next Tuesday night, I believe they're telling us things get going about 6. We're going to hang out, say hello to you. We'll collect the canned goods and stuff. And then I think around, if I'm not mistaken, 6:45 is when we'll start the podcast. And, we'll just do our normal thing and chat with Twister. And God, I cannot imagine the stories that this guy has.
I was going to say, it might not be a whole lot of Blues talk. It's going to be more just telling stories with Twister, because I, for one, am looking for. I've never gotten the opportunity to interview him since I've worked for the Blues worked for doing pre and post for the Blues.
How is that even possible?
He's always just been an elusive interview. Twister's got his own thing. He's not around the rink as much, and he's starting to be around a little bit more, but I've just never really had the opportunity. And I've been hosting shows on KMOX or 101 for the longest time, so this is going to be my first chance to actually interview Tony Twist.
Yeah, a couple things. I interviewed him a couple years ago for a story for The Athletic, and he said, come on out to the house. So you drive out there. It was like a 45-minute drive, and I walk in. He was a little bit busy with some other stuff before we started the interview, and he said, those chairs you sit down, they're kind of muscle relaxer chairs. Well, they lock you up, right? And so Tony Twist, it's just he and I, and he goes, why don't you sit in that chair for 20 minutes before I, finish up here and we do this interview? And I'm getting locked into this chair in his house. Like, what is going on here?
Chairs are
this is how I die. Tony.
Tony, your chair is a Venus flytrap. It's squeezing out the insides out of me.
I just want to get out. Tony, I just want to get out.
But it was surreal because here's the guy that I grew up watching, just pounding guys and the flesh, fights, right? We're talking. And it's
maybe, I don't know.
And then it was a situation too. His stories are so great. Like, and I can tweet the story that I wrote at The Athletic, but Tony Twist, like this guy, he said that, the morning skate, right? Mm-hmm. The Blues go out on the ice first, right, Donnie, for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. They come off, then the other team goes out. Well, Tony Twist, after he came off the ice with the Blues, he'd walk down the hallway, go through the entrance to the other team's bench, grab their water bottle and drink their water bottle while the other team is out on the ice for the morning skate. Just to intimidate them? Just for the intimidation factor. Just amazing.
Now, see, do you know why he could do that? Because he could get away with it.
You know how badass that is?
Dude, that's cold.
That's awesome.
Love that. I love that.
It'd be even better if he didn't drink it, if he just looked at him and be like,
just stared.
Just starts dumping out every one of their waters.
I honestly, I want to ask Twister. One of the things I can't wait to ask him is knowing that the next game you have a Bob Probert waiting for you, or a Ty Domi, or one of those kinds of characters, and how in the hell you could get yourself to sleep knowing that was looking at you in 24 hours. I couldn't even imagine. I could not imagine that.
I'm sure his response would be, no, they were thinking about me.
Yeah, I was going to say.
No, you're right.
And I'm sure that they were as well, but man, oh man.
Yeah. God, I, not to pump up other podcasts, but the ones that Kelly Chase and Brett Hull do, it's really entertaining. And they had Twister on, and they were talking about their game, and they told the story, and I can't wait to hear it from Tony, but they told the story about Tyson Nash being in the middle of a scrum, and Tony and Chaser came in to kind of protect him, and Nash was like, hey, get out of there. This is what I'm doing. I'm trying to draw penalties. And so they joked and said the next time it happened, we said, cool, you're on your own. And Nasher came back with 2 black eyes and a messed up nose, and Twist's like, hey, you didn't want our help. We're not going to help you. Oh, God, it's just, the amount of stories that individual is going to have. So it's going to be a really fun night.
Yeah, absolutely. Come out and see us, Hot Shots in Fenton, next Tuesday night. I also, too, forgot from the jump, want to make sure we give a shout out to our Last Minute Blues podcast presenting sponsor. That's Blue Note Roofing. Roofing, siding, and gutters. Your St. Louis roofing experts. Visit BlueNoteRoofingSTL.com for a free inspection. And I know I've said this probably the last couple of podcasts, and I know that we don't necessarily like to directly go back and talk about games that are already played, because we like the podcast to be a little bit more evergreen, something that that'll still be relevant in a day or so. But that said, guys, I think it's very important to talk about what we have seen from the team from the last few games. From a fan perspective, it seems as though, now whether that be because there are guys in this lineup that are just literally fighting for their NHL lives, but there seems to be a distinct amount of piss and vinegar in this team over the course of the last few games. It seems like there's some real good fight in these guys. Now, the results last night against Boston, not where you want them to be in losing, obviously, but you are a mash unit at this particular point. You're playing hard. I'm curious to know what you guys think of the last few games, because I'll be very honest with you, in looking at the Western Conference, reading your article, thank you, and seeing the Blues have a chance here. With all of these injuries, with all of the crap that we've seen, they've got a shot. Yeah. So I just want to know what you guys have seen these last few games. It seems like the defense is playing better. Joe Hofer, good Lord, was he fantastic at times last night, even though I know he ended up giving up what he ended up giving up. What do you guys think? Have your thoughts kind of changed about this team at all over the course of the last week, 10 days?
Well, you're not wrong in terms of the Western Conference keeping them in this, because, every time you feel like the Blues go into a rut and it's like, yeah, it's over. The Western Conference also does that. I mean, Seattle, who was sitting in a wild card spot for the longest time, has lost 5 in a row. Chicago's gone into a 500 slump. Utah's had their ups and downs. I mean, Winnipeg, since Connor Hellebuck has gone down, look like a different team. Everybody that's not Colorado, Dallas, and somewhat Minnesota is still in the race. So despite the Blues struggles, and I mentioned this on pregame last night, which baffles me that I haven't seen it before. Did you know that they have 11 regulation wins, which is the 4th most in the Western Conference?
The 4th most?
That's the 4th most in the Western Conference. Colorado, Dallas, and then Winnipeg has the 3rd most. And then the Blues are tied with like 5 or 6 other teams that have 11 regulation wins. And mind you, that's the first tiebreaker once you get into the playoff conversation. It really comes down to those 7 overtime losses and shootout losses that kind of screwed you over. Because let's say you flip 3 of those. You're at 6 points. You're at 35 on the season. Last night, you would have been 2 points away from the Minnesota Wild for 3rd place in the Central. So those overtime games have really screwed you. With that all being said, I know I'm like super sunshine on that side of it. It's so hard for me to look at the Blues and say they're still in this just because of the inconsistencies. Yeah. I mean, even Justin Falk said it the other night. I thought that Ottawa Senators game was going to be their rallying point. Hofer gets into the fight, pushed themselves back into that hockey game. They dug deep without Kyrou, and it's like, okay, that might have been the wake-up call for them. That might have been the moment that they said, hey, we can stay in any game. And then you beat Montreal on a back-to-back. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, this is it. But how many times this season have we done the, yep, this is it, and then they lay the dud? And that's what Falk told you guys last night, JR, in the locker room. It's like, look, we've just been way too inconsistent this season. You don't have the same fight in a hockey game night to night. And I know they played a lot of hockey. They've had travel involved with it, injuries, which we'll get to. But man, it's just, there's never a chance for them to string 3, 4, 5 same style of hockey together.
Yeah, I think that's what it boils down to. And look, Donnie, going back to what you were saying in terms of, hey, they look better. I think that even when they looked their worst, you always knew that this was a better team. They just weren't performing. They weren't consistent, like Alex is saying, and their top guys weren't doing it, but now they are. And, I think they went through a little transition going to the man-to-man defense. They're picking that up, although it didn't look like it last night. But it's held them back a little bit offensively. I asked Jim Montgomery yesterday, did you kind of expect that to be held back a little offensively while you're working on your defensive game? And he said, yeah, a little bit, but we feel like we're getting some chances, some grade A chances, and now we're executing on them, which they weren't doing before. So you look at the standings, and I understand, you're in the mix, right? Yeah. But I'll go back to, will Doug Armstrong keep this team together so that still in January you're talking about being a couple points out potentially? Because, not that they don't want to make the playoffs. They certainly do. You saw what happened last year. But what about if there's a lot of interest in a Braden Shen, in a Justin Falk, guys who have term left on their contract before this year? If you don't move them and then you try to make a run with them or try to make the playoffs, sure, you can move them in the offseason, but you're probably going to get more for them when teams are getting another playoff run out of them this year.
You'll get them to maybe overpay a little bit too.
Yeah, and you'll get what probably the going rate is going to be for a Shen, a first round pick and maybe another asset. The way Falk's played this year, I think better than the past couple of years, I think there's going to be some interest. And so we can sit here and talk about, okay, they're, 2 points out of a wild card spot right now. They could be 2 points out of a wild card spot in January, but how does Doug Armstrong view this team? How does he look at his assets? How do he and Alexander Steen moving forward see those players who are going to draw some interest at the trade deadline as a part of this team next year?
Hell, they did it with Paul Stastny when they were in a playoff spot, if I'm not mistaken, or at least a couple of points away from it.
Right there, yeah.
And Steen was the one that got frustrated with the team at the time, and we all know the story. Doug had to talk with them, and that's the part that I'll find fascinating, because with Steen taking over next year, and I know Doug Armstrong's still a part of the organization, but with Steen in charge, do you expedite that decision to say, look, we got to move to this new core? We can't. It's been great to have them, but at some point we have to have these guys take over this new group of Blues players. So let's rip that Band-Aid off so that by next season they get a taste of what this is like and they're ready to run with it. But with the flip of that, Alexander Steen knows better than anybody in the organization how much leadership matters in a locker room. And if you move on from a Braden Shen, if you move on from a Justin Falk, I mean, those are 2 big voices that are in the room. But, I can argue with myself all day there because they've had the same issues for 4 years with the same leadership group. So this is not an easy situation, I have to imagine, if you're Doug Armstrong and Alex Steen.
All right. Well, here, let's do this. Let's take a break. Let's come back. We're going to talk about the injuries. I don't know. I thought I was going a little more glass half full.
I was going to say, you don't sound very happy there, Don.
No, because it all makes a ton of sense. I mean, I think more than anything else, and we've talked about it before, what's become incredibly apparent here is how much the run last year was an anomaly. I mean,
and I guess that's the question I had to have for you then. What part of the season have you looked at and you said there's still some optimism there? Is it because the Western Conference has struggled?
I mean, dude, truthfully, it's because of how the Western Conference looks and because it's still early December, and I just don't want them to be out of it. That is completely my rhyme, rationale, and reason there. That's it. And then, honestly, seeing them the last few games dig a little bit more, have those games be a little bit more feisty. And there were parts of the game last night. I mean, that first period, I thought the Blues were. I mean, I thought that there was noise in front of Swayman. Mm-hmm. I thought that they were doing some things right, and it feels like you see little pieces of that throughout the course of some of the games, but I understand consistency is the word here. And also too, more than anything else, I just want them to be doing this year at the trade deadline or whatever that is setting the system up for the future. A playoff series this year, to me, doesn't mean crap if you're not moving in the right direction. And so it's just kind of resetting. But if you're going to also, too, and we've talked about this before, if you're going to come at me next year with this exact same core and tell me that everything's going to be okay, then we're going to be starting off the year next year with a crabby ass tie.
I was talking with somebody at the Blues about that yesterday. It's like, the hard part is, like, say they go on another run, they figure it out, you make the playoffs. How many people would have the same mentality going into next season if they did that? Because I feel like this season, it's kind of like one of those, it's a trap situation for fans, right? To where it's like you play well, you get hot for 2 months, you make the playoffs. Let's say you get to 7 games, or maybe you win a round. I don't know how many people would be looking at that as, oh yeah, now they'll start off next season, because it's been the same narrative for the Blues for the last 4 seasons. That's the inconsistency. And Steve Ott was talking about it last night as well. It's like, it's just from one period, they play so well, so stingy, so feisty. And then in the second period against the last night,
against Boston.
Yeah, against Boston, it completely dissipates.
Absolutely.
It's a complete 180 from what they did in one period.
But also, too, and I'm just throwing this out, and then we are for real going to go to break, but also, wasn't it when they really started to bite it, wasn't it after Bukestad had gotten hurt, mm-hmm. and that lineup had to shrink again? The Blues lineup had to shrink again. So, like, it just feels like they were kind of trying to find their footing without another player missing. Anyway, let's go back. We're going to talk about these injuries. Going to take a break. More of the Last Minute Blues podcast coming next. All right, guys. So last night, Nick Bukestad leaves the game. So let's just do just for purposes here, the injured Blues players are Kyrou, Torpchenko.
Keep going.
Walker, Snuggerud,
and now Bukestad.
And now Bukestad.
5 forwards.
Yeah.
I mean,
your defense is healthy.
Dude, like, guys, how can you realistically get yourself through this particular stretch? Because if I'm not mistaken as well, we don't have any idea when any of these guys are coming back, really, right?
Right. And I think if you look at each individual situation, like they've already said, Snuggerud,
6 to 8 weeks, I think they said, or 6 weeks was reevaluated.
Yeah. And you have Torpchenko, who's week to week. Saw him last night. He was just outside the Blues locker room. Obviously, you can't tell how he's doing, but seemed to be in good spirits, which I don't know if I would be after hearing that injury.
And I can't wait to hear from him what happened, because my gosh, that's scary.
And then with Kyrou, Jim Montgomery said yesterday that, the report from the MRI was what they hoped.
Week to 10 days.
Yeah, week to 10 days. So you don't know that you'll get him back before the Christmas break, though, which is 7 games. You could. But, so to answer your question, it doesn't look like any of these 5 guys, unless Bukestad just suddenly comes back, will be ready soon.
So, I mean, really, you have to patchwork this with guys that realistically should not be playing in the NHL right now. And when you have one of those guys in your lineup, it affects things. But when you're looking at, really 3 to 4 of these guys in the lineup, how do the Blues make that even realistically work?
Well, and the way I tried to write about it today is, and I was talking to Alex about this, Luff isn't losing you hockey games. Kaskamaki by himself isn't losing you hockey games. It's when you get to 3 or 4 guys who just don't have the experience. And now if you're Jim Montgomery, you're sending those guys out to defend or play against Boston's third and fourth lines. And look what happened last night. That Boston fourth line dominated a couple goals, and that was the difference when they took over the second period. So I just think it's a situation where, you can overcome 1 or 2 of those. And especially if you got 1 or 2 at forward, 1 or 2 at defense, you're talking 5 injuries. There's 4 guys that started the year in Springfield that are in the lineup right now. And it could be a 5th guy on the roster, if they call somebody up for Bukestad. So tough situation. What do you add up all the games of these guys, NHL games of the 4? And what are you talking about?
I think you're probably
50 games.
Well, maybe less than 100.
Played a few, so less than 100.
Less than 100, or at least right at 100. That's the big, and I thought Curb said it best on the broadcast last night. Like, there is a reality check at some point that you look around the rostered players and you realize there's going to be young mistakes that take place on the ice. Like one of the goals last night by Boston, it was just Alibor Dvorsky not hard enough on the puck, not winning the puck battle and getting it out. There were a couple of scenarios that you just didn't have the forwards back checking heavy enough to win battles in front of the net. So, like last night against Boston was explainable. You lost Bukestad early in the second period. You essentially didn't play Matt Luff the rest of the game. I think he took a couple more shifts in the third period, but he had 10 shifts last night. So what it does is, one, you have very few reps for those guys out there who are shaking the cobwebs off at the NHL or learning the NHL level like a Kaskamaki. So you're not playing them as much, which means you're using more of your top guys, which means you might get that energy boost early on, or you might get what happened in the third period with Robert Thomas and Pavel Buchnevich connecting. But more times than not, fatigue's going to set in for those guys. Like, they're well conditioned, but there's 21 minutes of ice time for Robert Thomas against Boston. Like, that's a lot. He's typically around 18? That's defenseman minutes that you're playing against Boston. So you're using a lot of those guys because you don't want to put your other guys out there who don't have the experience late in games, and then their effectiveness isn't there because they're gassed. Those shifts are shorter. And if you get stuck out there in the second period, so the trickle down effect is, I don't know if you can overcome that. I don't know if you can combat that. Like JR mentioned, you could do 1 or 2 guys. You have to play a perfect brand of hockey when you have that many inexperienced or in and out types of players in the lineup.
Which is going to be tough to do when 5 of them are new guys. That sounds like an almost impossible task.
Yeah, right? No. And one point we should qualify too is how many times we talk about the fourth line being the line that got the team going. Like the Sundqvist,
that's your physicality.
Walker.
You don't have Walker. You don't have Toropchenko. Now you don't have Nick Bukestad. Jimmy Snuggerud's a physical player. I just listed 4 guys that play the style of hockey that Jim Montgomery wants his team to play. Physical, heavy, along the boards, winning puck battles. How'd you lose the game to Boston? You lost board battles.
I think one player that, just real quick, and then I want to continue in this line. One player that plays for that Bruins team, boy, that Morgan Geekie is really something else, man. What an incredible young player he is. How old is he? 22, 23?
27?
Yeah,
27.
Older.
So he's not that young.
Yeah, so he's been in the league. So he was with Carolina. I think he was originally drafted by Carolina. I don't know if they traded, if he was claimed in the expansion draft by Seattle.
Yeah.
But he was with Seattle for a few years.
What?
Yeah, he was a third line player in Seattle. Like he was averaging 12 minutes a night. He wasn't playing. They let him walk. Seattle did as a free agent. Boston signed him. And then Joey told the story yesterday that he had the conversation with Jim Montgomery, and Jim Montgomery said that, we had to scratch him for a few games to let it figure out, but then it's like he got into the lineup and then boom, something clicked and he just ran away with it. And he's been a top 6 guy for Boston ever since.
Man, I did not know his story like that.
Yeah.
judging young players.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it could just take so long. That's so crazy. Okay, so anyway, one of the things that was kind of sort of percolating as we were getting ready to record today is it looks as though the Blues have signed, and I don't know if this is a PTO or what this is.
PTO, yeah.
It is a PTO to Dylan Dube.
Dube, yep. Yeah.
And so, guys, do you look at this as a fix for the big club, or do you look at this as a body for the AHL Springfield team, which now I would assume they're going to be calling me potentially at some point or the other to fill in lineups because of how the Blues are continuing to pull. What do you think about that?
Yeah, a couple things. First of all, I don't think that the signing would have happened if not for all the injuries. I think it's a situation. I was talking to Tim Taylor, the assistant GM, who is in charge of player development a couple days ago, and he said that, gosh, Springfield, you got third, fourth liners are now playing top line roles.
They're dismantled.
Yeah, and so with all the injuries, you said trickle-down effect, same situation with Springfield. They don't have a lot of bodies right now, so they bring in Dylan Dube. And the reason why, we're talking about this is he was one of the 5 players involved in the World Junior Championship trial case that was eventually dismissed. But those players are popping up on NHL teams. Carter Hart, the goaltender. I think he's the
third one now because I think Cal Foote is with somebody as well. The defenseman was signed.
Yeah.
So then there's 2 of them that are playing overseas.
Trying to resume, their careers. And obviously people are going to have opinions on that and whether they should be allowed, but they've been reinstated by the NHL, and the Blues just put out a statement saying they've done their due diligence and they felt comfortable enough giving him the PTO. And so it's NHL, AHL deal. To answer your question, is he going to become a Blue? It just depends on how he plays. If he goes down the American Hockey League and plays well for Springfield, could they call him up with all these injuries? They might have to, but we'll just see how that plays out.
Would they have to? They'd have to sign him to an NHL contract then. So, like, if the same, it sounds like it's the same as what Milan Lucic was, to where it's just there's no training camp. Like Lucic, after training camp where he was injured, he signed that PTO. He went to Springfield once he healed. He played 4 or 5 games, and then they released him from the PTO. So it sounds like this is the exact same thing. Now, obviously, there's a story behind it with everything that took place with Dube. But it does seem like I originally thought this was just going to be an AHL transaction because I didn't think the NHL would be tied to it. I just assumed it was the Thunderbirds need bodies because they typically will do this where the AHL team will go out and sign somebody. But I would imagine with Dylan Dube's status, the team looks at this and says, hey, look, it's a PTO. If he performs well and fights his way onto the roster, then you got another guy who's got NHL experience that could come up. But I mean, last season he played in Russia. I think the last 2 seasons he was playing over in the KHL. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. The other guy that they have in the minor leagues right now is that Akil Thomas that they acquired from Alexandrov. So like they're putting more bodies into the minor league system to see, but I mean, I don't know if Dube is even going to get a chance the same way Milan Lucic did. Because Dube's, I think he's 20.
Yeah, I thought he was
27.
Mid to late, yeah.
Yeah, so he's like 20s. Late 20s. So it's not like we're talking where Lucic was 35, 36 years old.
Right.
But he's a smaller guy. Last couple of seasons he played with Calgary and he struggled in that one. Of course, the case happened and then he was out of the NHL, played over in the KHL and struggled there as well.
When was the last time? Do you guys remember when there was the last time where the Blues were down this many bodies?
Ooh.
Like we're digging so deep in Springfield, and that's no disrespect to any of these guys that they brought up, but I mean, it definitely feels like we're
nothing that comes
tracks here.
I'd have to go back and look, but I would have to imagine around the Olympics time, right? Like when you condense a schedule like this, or maybe when they came back from COVID, if you were going through, it feels like because of the condensed schedule, you see a lot more injuries pop up.
Yeah, and Robert Thomas kind of talked about that last night when I asked him about playing through, this number of injuries. He said it's tough for guys to recover. It's tough for guys to get back. But I know Curbs had the stat, recently he put it on social media that, we talk about the compressed schedule because of the Olympics, but it's not that far off of
what they did last year,
what they've done in recent years. Mm-hmm. Like we're talking a matter of days, like, a certain amount of games in 43 days instead of 45 days. So,
and really the travel hasn't been as awful. I mean, they've had one long road trip, which was that one that started in Toronto and then ended when they came back home.
Oh, believe me.
Yeah. JR remembers that one. That was long. But I mean, other than that, you've had a couple of 2-game road trips here. You had a 3-game road trip there. they've played more home games than they've played road games, and now you got a stretch of playing, 5 of their next 6 games on home ice. It's just the condensed schedule. I mean, the amount of 3s and 4s that they've played over the last couple of weeks and what they're going to do now and then next week, I'm not making excuses as to why they've struggled. I think that's a telling sign as to why these injuries have started to pop up, is because you've got all of these guys that are playing a lot of minutes, a gritty style of hockey for an extended period of time in a very condensed schedule.
Yeah, real quick before we go to break again and come back with some emails, I think Bill Daly did come out yesterday and say something to the effect of, if the ice isn't right, if there's a risk to the players, NHL players not going to the Olympics. So they're going to friggin' figure out a way to make the ice 200 feet.
Yeah, I think
so that this could happen. I just don't envision a situation where the NHL players don't end up going over.
I just love all the narratives of everybody saying these NHL players are concerned. They don't want to play. They don't want to go out there and risk it. And then you hear the Kachuk brothers on their podcast and they're like, we don't care what the size of the rink is. We just want to play in the Olympics.
Well, and I totally get that, but I believe I heard Chris Pronger talking about it the other day where he was saying something like, we can do it, but hold on here and it can lead to injury. It is different. Hold on. Yeah. He didn't seem to be so all on board, but I think if I were the Kachuk brothers,
I'd want to play no matter what.
75 feet ice. I don't care. I just want to go out there and friggin' go against the best.
Well, yeah, the one thing too, though, is let's say they just play on whatever the dimensions are and it's 3 foot short, right?
Yeah.
How many times are there going to be an injury and everybody's going to say it's because of the ice?
It's going to happen all the time.
Every injury is going to be because of
how are you going to be able to differentiate? No, that wasn't because of the ice, but that one was.
Yeah. Everything is going to be determined as, well, it's because of the short ice or the smaller ice rink is what's going to take place. And honestly, I've never played that. I've never played the game, so I don't know how much of an impact it's going to have, but I can't imagine it's going to be an injury riddled Olympics because of 3 feet dimension smaller than what it is.
What I don't understand is, has the IOC, have they been out to the Shark Tank for the Merrimack Shark? Maybe we could get some qualifying games in that.
I don't get it. It's like we're acting as if if the rink doesn't work. It's like, why don't you just pick a rink in North America? We're just going to play the Olympics here.
You cannot tell me that in the entire country of Italy that there are not ice rinks that are too standard that an NHL, that those games could go on.
They have rinks that professionals play in over there.
It just is still one of the most ridiculous things that I've heard. So let's do this, guys. Unless there's anything that we're missing here, let's take a break. Let's come back. Let's get to some great listener emails.
Oh, perfect.
We good? All right. Last segment, Last Minute Blues podcast coming next. All right, guys. So the emails are, they're coming fast and furious. And the great part about it is, for the most part, people are getting to the point.
Quick and
That's because you laid the law down.
Yeah, Donnie laid the hammer.
So Evan emailed in with the question that says, why is Monty so committed to a 1A, 1B power play? We're 30th in goals per game, and Monty would rather put Sonny on the power play than have one clear top unit. Any chance his thinking on this evolves?
Well, they've done it every which way possible. Yeah. They've had a top unit, a bottom unit, a 1A, a 1B. They've done every combination that you can do. So, and at times it's been good. And when it's been good, they've stuck with it, right? And I know the Sonny question on the power play always comes up, but my thing is, they're not looking for him to run the flank or run the point or, something like that. The power play does not run through Oskar Sundqvist. And if he's not a net front guy,
Who is? That's my question. If you're not happy with the power play, who's a net front presence on this team that can stand in front of the net?
And listen, if the power play isn't working, it's not because Oskar Sundqvist isn't doing his job. So I'm not saying he's, he's a power play player on every playoff team in the league right now. I'm just saying he's what the Blues have, and he's not holding them back.
This isn't to diminish Sundqvist's role because it's important, but I think Oskar Sundqvist is the last line of defense on the offensive side on the power play, right? Like everybody else, their job is to get the puck on net so Sundqvist can do his job. And so I think if I'm looking at a power play struggling, I'm looking at everything else around it. Why aren't pucks getting on net for Sundqvist to do his job? Because you look at the Anaheim Ducks power play. Chris Kreider does the same thing that they want Sundqvist to do. Stand in front of the net, get rebounds, put them on net. But if they're not getting on net, or if they're not getting on net well enough for Sundqvist to get the rebound, because most times the shots go right into the gut of the goalie or the glove of the goalie, Sundqvist can't do anything about that. So like my biggest thing, because I hear people complain about the power play all the time, and the biggest complaint is, well, Steve Ott's the problem. I don't think Steve Ott is telling the Blues to just keep passing the puck around until something opens up. It's the players that need to execute what they want done. But then I look at the power play and the options that they have now. How are you going to formulate a power play? Like Thomas and Buchnevich, yes. You got to have Falk or Fowler on there because they're not playing Broberg on the power play for how much minutes he eats on even strength and penalty kill. So it's one of those two. And then from there, I mean, you've tried Holloway. You've tried Schenn as that other option. You need a net front presence. Like, they're banged up to the point now where you just don't have a lot of guys to formulate a 1A and a 1B.
All right, so let's see. Spencer, message again. Hey, guys, I don't think Monty is the problem, but the way he juggles lines is infuriating. I feel like just barely in the second sometimes. Sometimes in the first period, he's already juggling up lines. Like just after Curbs and Joey says, this seems to be a great line here with Booch, Schenn, and Dvorsky. 5 minutes later, or it's, we're going back to the tried and true Kyrou, Schenn, Holloway. Lots of chemistry last year. Can we just let them breathe and build chemistry for even a game and switch between games? Love the pod. Let's go Blues. That's from Spencer.
I'll defend Monty on this one a little. Not that he needs my defense, but he let that line marinate of Schenn and Buchnevich and Dvorsky for like 5 or 6 games. And he even said they had it early and then they lost it after a couple of games. Why would you keep throwing a line out there that has lost the chemistry? Maybe they'll get it back. Maybe they won't, but they didn't have it after a couple of games. That trip that they started in Toronto and went through New York, he kept the lines the same for 4 straight, and the offense was still not there. They have to keep chugging up the lines. 1, because of the injuries. I mean, when injuries happen, you're changing everything up. And 2, if the chemistry's not there, you have to go find something different. Like Schenn, Buchnevich, or Buchnevich, Thomas, and Neighbors, since that Ottawa Senators game where they were put back together and they looked good there. They've stuck together and they stayed together the entire game against Boston. They've stuck with Dvorsky, or they stuck with Schenn and Holloway as a pair since that Ottawa Senators game. The problem was Kyrou was the third, and then they had to move Joseph up there. And then your third and fourth line are just in shambles right now.
Yeah, and I agree with everything Alex said, but let's try to speak up for if it's a minority of people who think that he does it too much. I don't know what the numbers are on that, but let's speak up for those people and say, okay, yeah, maybe he does change him up a lot. Alex can sit here and say there's reasons for it, and I agree with a lot of those reasons. If the production's not there, you have to change them up. I've seen it so many times over the years where maybe a coach does stick with them for 5, 6, 7 games, and he's hoping for that chemistry to kind of take shape, and it doesn't. And then what do you have? You have fans saying, break them up. They're not getting it done. Yeah. Why are you playing them together? So yeah, there have been players over the years who wish that they could get a couple more games together and try to let that chemistry play out. And it doesn't happen because the coach changed it up. Jim Montgomery has a reputation of changing the lines a lot, but I think he's basing it on, what are you giving me? What's the production? You guys want to stick together? Let's see some pucks in the back of the net, and that hasn't happened.
And overall, and I could be very wrong on this, but isn't like this, the way that coaches juggle lines is a little bit different now than the way that it used to be? Like, aren't they more willing now to kind of continue to kind of try to find a spark as opposed to just leaving the same guys with the same guys because they have been their line mates for a long time?
And sometimes he changes it in games and he goes back to lines that have worked in the past, that have instant chemistry. Like, he'll go to Thomas, Kyrou, and Buchnevich for a couple of shifts to try and ignite some type of spark. Or he'll go to Schenn, Holloway, and Kyrou on a combination because maybe that will just give them that instant spark. I mean, it's what Colorado does, right? When Colorado doesn't have the offense that they need, they put all of their best guys together. Edmonton, when Edmonton needs a spark, they move Draisaitl on a line with Connor McDavid because they say these guys will go out there and dominate. I don't think it's the in-game line changing as much as it's you just don't have guys that can go out there and just change the game with one shift.
And also, the composition of lines has changed so much let's just say the last 10 or 15 years, you used to have, your skill guys, and this guy only played left wing, and this guy was a center, and, these are top line guys. Now you look at it, it's kind of top 9-ish, where Jake Neighbors can be your left wing on your third line, or he can be your top line right wing. So there's so many interchangeable players in terms of combinations, potential combinations that Jim Montgomery can do. And then also with analytics becoming a bigger part, there's so many numbers that show him, hey, put this guy with this guy. This guy's strong on his faceoffs, on the left side. It'd be good to have him out there with this guy. And so that leads to all the different combinations. Maybe people's response to that would be, who cares? Just get them out there, let them play together, and, they'll develop. The only thing is there's just so much information now and versatility amongst the players that I think leads to the coaches wanting to try different things. When you go 6 games with 2 goals or less, 9 games.
I mean, it makes all the sense.
The matter of the fact, too, is how many games they've played this season? They played 31. You know how many games they've scored 4 or more goals?
What?
Couple?
7. Oh, 7.
So, it's a lot, but it's not like this team has had games where it's like, oh, yeah, that's the line that goes out there and dominates. How many times have they had games where it's like, oh, wow, that's a line that works? A couple, maybe? Right. And again, they'll stick with it. I wish I had in my stat book with me, but that Schenn, Dvorsky, and Buchnevich line stuck together for 4 or 5 games. It started to dissipate, and then look at what Pavel Buchnevich has done since. Yeah. He's refound his ability to go out there and dominate in shifts, and he's back with Robert Thomas and Jake Neighbors, and that line has been one of your best for a couple of games.
All right, so guys, I figure we got time for a couple more emails.
Yep.
Here, I'm going to let you guys choose what we talk about.
Oh, here we go.
We got an email. All right, we got an email about Cam Fowler. We've got one about Justin Carbonneau. Let's see. We've got a question about Blues culture.
You got like Santa's list over there.
We've got Matthew Joseph.
I like, quick hits. And since the team, the people took their time to send it in, how about you give a question?
Rapid fire?
We give a 1 or 2 sentence response.
Okay, rapid fire.
Let's do it. All right. Let's see here.
Donnie's got to concise through this.
Evening, Donnie and Alex, and to whom I'm just going to read it faster. To whom it may concern.
Micro Machine Guy.
I mean, JR, the live podcast charity event is a most excellent idea, not only to unite the podcast listeners, but also do good for the community. I applaud you, gentlemen. Too bad I will not be there able to attend as I will be stuck at work, but would love to know how those who cannot attend but also want to support the community, the Blues, and this podcast, how can we get one of these stickers? Maybe send in a donation with a self-addressed stamped envelope. This isn't even a question for you guys that we started with, so I don't even know why I did it. So
no, let's come up with an answer after the podcast.
Okay, and Donnie, what's your home address?
No. But you know what? We will figure this out.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
And I tell you what, here's what I want to do to this guy, Jason. Jason is a regular emailer. He's always chipping in with something. And so what I want to do here is I will legitimately send Jason a couple myself.
So there we go.
Jason, email me back and I will get you squared away. But we do need to come up with a way
that those that
for can't
you.
come out can help us out here. What's up, boys? First, I got to say, grew up listening. What's up, boys? Donnie, first, I got to say, I grew up listening to you on The Point, and my parents often tell me I was conceived at Point Fest 97.
Wow. Yeah, buddy.
So,
Donnie remembers that day.
The music that was playing in the front seat while you were playing in the back seat.
I mean, like
Point Fest.
In 1997, I'm trying to think if I was at the Point yet. Because truthfully, I was either at Point Fest 97 as a listener or I was there working. It was one of the two. But anyway, Noah's question concerns Cam Fowler. Last year, he was consistently on the score sheet, driving the offense, letting 55 play more his natural defensive first game and quarterbacking the power play. Is it due to his new responsibility to mentor and guide the young guys like Suter did last year, or is there something else keeping him from his offensive game? As a man who was born and raised in Farmington, Mo, thank you guys for spreading the game in the Lou and all of the Show Me State. That is from Noah. Good
like it, Noah.
And he says, "Thanks, Dad."
Yeah, thanks, Dad. 97, Donnie. Never forget.
Do you remember, Donnie? Do you remember my mom?
You remember? You were there as a fan, weren't you? All right, 1 sentence, 2 sentences with Cam Fowler. I think the struggle on offense isn't so much to do with him. I think it's the lack of offense from the forwards, because a lot of the offense for Fowler came from picking up those assists and the power play.
Sounds good.
All right, moving on.
Nailed that one. Jerry, you can have the next one.
Gentlemen, I saw a tweet this evening that made it sound like Justin Carbonneau would not be at the World Juniors. His stats show him at a goal-a-game pace. Not familiar with the World Juniors tournament, but that sounds like a hell of a goal scorer to leave off your roster. Can you guys provide any insight as to why this might be the case? Been listening since day one. Sure do miss Burton's perspective, but I wish you guys did this podcast 3 times a week. Solid work, boys. Thanks for the insight. Eric, I would like for us to be able to do this 3 times a week as well, but when the team is not playing great, man, it's not easy.
I got to be honest with you. It's tough to find stuff to talk about on pre-games that's not negative. I don't know if we can find 3 days a week.
Donnie, it's a great question. Here's the thing. Team Canada talked about it a little bit. And listen, Carbonneau getting left off, yeah, that was tough. That's tough for him because he's a great player, as he mentioned, goal per game this season. The thing is, Team Canada is trying to build a team that's going to win the gold. You know, they need top line guys. They also need bottom line guys. They also need penalty killers. So you can't just take 12 forwards who have goal a game like he does in junior this year. You got to get some other gritty guys who you can put out on the PK. So I think that's part of the reason why he didn't make it. But I did talk to Tim Taylor, I mentioned, and he said they love his game. They love the player. Just because he didn't make the World Junior doesn't mean he's not going to have a bright future.
Okay, hold on. I do remember I got a really great message on Instagram that I wanted to read. And this is from Adam. It says, "Hey, Donnie, Blues fan from the UK here.
Nice.
Love the podcast and reckon these boys are right in your wheelhouse going off the musical chat you guys have. Great British band coming to St. Louis next year. You already may know them, but just in case." So Adam is messaging me about this fantastic band that's going to be here for a Point Ho Ho show in February called Dinosaur Pileup. And they are I would say a punk-leaning rock band, and they kick freaking ass. I had the chance to see them the last time that they were in St. Louis at the Duck Room at Blueberry Hill, and I'm going to tell you this right now. It was a Friday night, and I did not want to go to a show. I was crabby as hell that I had to be there. I did not want to be there at all right? Then Dinosaur Pileup, about 2 songs in, made me so incredibly thankful that I got my ass up off the couch.
I was just picturing these 10 dinosaurs running. The first guy stops, and the others, they just run into each other as a big dinosaur pileup.
Chair's actually picturing a dinosaur pileup,
which I guess is a great thing that I've never done. But anyway, this Dinosaur Pileup is fantastic.
Dinosaurs wouldn't be able to get up either. They got the tiny arms.
They figure out a way to make it happen. I mean, resourceful creatures they were. But Adam, thank you very much for that email. And Dinosaur Pileup absolutely kicks ass. Here, let's do one more here.
Yep.
Not being a huge fan of Matthew Joseph last season or at the start of this season, I'm now starting to become a fan, mostly because of the emotion and communication I see after he ends his shift on the ice. He's also turned into the action on the ice, or just he's tuned into what is going on the ice or what just occurred. He doesn't just sit there. You see him talking to the others on the bench. He's passionate about what he does, and he wears his emotions on his sleeve. I think his attitude is exactly what this team needs to win games consistently, even after winning a few games. It says great pod dudes. That's from Fur Fan Ford. And Matthew Joseph, man, I love how he plays. There's nothing to not love about how that dude plays.
Yeah, he's had a really good season, a strong season, because in my opinion, I thought they brought in Milan Lucic because they weren't happy with how the season ended with Joseph and Texier. And they were trying to bring a couple of extra insurance pieces to create that competition. Matthew Joseph, all credit to him, man. From training camp on, he went out there and took his spot. He looks like the guy that was the first-year player in Ottawa. And if you go back and look at it, I mean, he was like a 17-goal scorer that season with Ottawa. He was physical. He was everywhere. That's what he looks like right now. And I mean, he's one of those guys that does not deserve to come out of the lineup when they're back to being healthy. I mean, he got posted on a shot last night shorthanded that would have put the Blues up by 2. So, I mean, he's got speed, he's got scoring ability, and he's got the physical ability as well.
Do you see him? I'm sorry, Jared. No. Do you see this as maybe potentially propelling him to having a full-time role with maybe, I mean, not the Blues next year, most likely just because of numbers, but like, do you see this as maybe him getting into a bottom 6 somewhere else?
No, I think that he's going to be a depth player, and it could be here. But he's going to be a depth player. And, you know, right now there's just with the when the Blues are healthy, there's a dinosaur pileup of players who are trying to.
None of them can get up either.
That's why he does what he does so well, everybody.
I even felt like he was doing a video when he was doing that. That's the name of the podcast today, too, right? Dinosaur Pileup?
I think it probably should be. All right,
clicks.
Before we're done here, reminder, next Tuesday, Fenton Hot Shots.
Tuesday.
Let's go. Tony Twist joins us for a live episode of the Last Minute Blues podcast, benefiting Operation Food Search. Bring your canned food items, non-perishable food items. We're going to set that all together.
Bring 10 of them, Jared will take a picture with you.
Your chance to play good puck, bad puck with us potentially.
Yep.
Your chance to win an autographed banner jersey. We'll have Blues tickets to give away. Tony Twist there to chat with us about all things being the Twister. So that is next Tuesday. You can go to the Point website. You can go to the ESPN website if you need any more details. And we would just love to pack that spot next Tuesday. It would be freaking amazing to back that up. And also, too, while we're podcasting next week, we're also going to be having drinks. So who knows by the time that this thing is over,
dangerous.
What this podcast is going to be sounding.
The Italian might come out.
Donnie's like, you guys want to hear about Creed behind the scenes?
I'll tell you why I think Rascal Flatts is a great band.
We can talk about how the world melting down coincides with Creed's resurgence in popularity. We could do that too. I don't know if I've ever told you this, but there are not very many bands on this planet that I hate worse than Creed.
You're crazy.
I'm crazy.
You take me.
I always met
That guy sounds like he is pinching it off every time he is singing anything. It is ridiculous.
Where do you sound the best when you sing, Donnie? In the bathroom.
In the shower, not when I'm pooping. It sounds like he's pooping.
Well, maybe do
it's
the shower
Last
too.
Minute Blues podcast. It is brought to you by Blue Note Roofing, roofing, siding, and gutters. Your St. Louis roofing experts. Visit BlueNoteRoofingSTL.com for a free inspection. From 101 ESPN, that is Scott Stapp, a.k.a. Alex Ferrario. Jeremy Rutherford from The Athletic. I'm Donnie Fandango from The Point and from The Arch. As always, thank you very much for listening, and let's go Blues.
The Last Minute Blues podcast on 101 ESPN
is presented by Blue Note Roofing, roofing, siding, and gutters. Your St. Louis roofing experts. Visit BlueNoteRoofing.com for a free inspection.